I want to talk a little bit about how alternative media, such as my channel and other channels, tend to push news stories out that would otherwise never be even noticed. Channels like Call for an Uprising or Hacking the Headlines, both of whom I've watched a lot of. Call for an Uprising, I actually stopped watching because this is what I'm talking about, this alternative media actually being the voice of the mainstream media, obscure magazines and things like that, who knows, maybe they do have a lot of readership. I couldn't tell you. However, it's about the Illuminati. Who is that? Well, it's a group of people that claim to have knowledge that is superior, higher grade knowledge than everyone else. And it is apparently the Illuminati that is planning a coup of some sort. That brings me to this video, and what I want to point out is that while I totally respect hacking the headlines, there's a real problem with making their news like reality. Pretend like going along with any of these stories as if they're real. It's a trap, really, because we live in a time when everything is disinformation. Because of that, filtering through it, it's definitely difficult. So I'm not condemning, really, either of these channels. Call for an Uprising, he doesn't come out for the flat earth or against it. To me, that's so weird. Like, how can you recognize these spells and stuff that these people are doing unless you have a foundation in knowing what a lie looks like? And that is to have already, on your own, overcome whether or not the earth is a sphere. So that makes me interested in the type of content that's being pushed by, say, a Call for an Uprising, where it's like, what made me unsubscribe is he actually did a video that was saying, like, urgent, to subscribe to his other channel so that you can get these mainstream news articles piped to you with, a dose of outrage and everything, sure, but we're in a really strange spot because what they did is they created a constitution based on God-given rights, and those were pretty accurately assumed and described in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights specifically. So the Bill of Rights is what allowed the United States to become a country. Without the agreement that God-given rights, especially these ones, enumerated rights, had to be preserved above all things. It's the only thing that really matters. If you want to have a country, that's fine, but these things matter the most. We've lost a lot of rights. I mean, technically they'll exist, but the courts have found ways around them. Things like let's say a no trespassing sign at a business, at your government office. So public records that you don't have access to, are they public? Well, you can do a FOIA request, and maybe you'll get them, and maybe you won't, right? But it gives people that work at these buildings the idea that they have an ownership there. And that's not true. There's not like a stake. There are companies where you receive stocks, sometimes as part of your pay or bonus packages, something like that. So things like Winco grocery stores actually pay their employees money in order to build a personal investment within the company so that each employee wants the company to succeed. And then they're rewarded if it does. The same is not true for government employees. They don't work for the government and then gain a stock because of building a government bigger. That's not the purpose of government. Government is just here to do the things that private business cannot. And people are losing sight of that. Big time. I mean, take for instance, police. What is police? It's a security job. So why do security jobs, why do they need to be socialized and then paid for through taxpayer income? Taxpayer-generated income? That doesn't seem right. Security is a real job. People are security. They really do security for money. So why is it that security can't be done for on the city level by people that are paid money to do it? Because here's the situation with the police forces. I pay taxes all the time. You can't buy a candy bar without paying taxes. Okay? So everyone in the United States pays taxes. Everyone. Some people are paying more. Some people are doing less and paying more. Some people are doing more and paying less. All that. Every variation exists. However, at the end of the day, there's a job for security. So, are we getting a security force that is paid for the work that they do? The question I'm asking. Because it seems like to me I've had several felonies perpetrated against me. Most of them I don't even report to the police because, what are they going to do? Cause more damage, come in and claim that somebody owes them money, and then you're just, maybe you can jump through some hoops and maybe end up getting your restitution. Or it's so unlikely, though. So the problem is that we pay for these services that we don't get with the police. And that's because they can't really fail. If you're in a job where you can't fail and where you have to still just come back tomorrow, then this is not like work. Work is, it's a physics equation, really. So work is like weight times distance. So if you translate into, for society, that's basically like useful times useful for how many people. Okay, so we need to start looking at, at people, value in a completely different way as we move forward, because it hasn't worked. This money value system, people are upset with it, and so what are they doing? Going to Bitcoin. Guys, everybody with the massively inflated amounts of money can just go in and buy a bunch of Bitcoin. People are like, oh, well, gold. Well, don't worry, because the people just use their paper money to buy all the gold. We're not in control of any of this stuff. So in the Bible it says, I think it's 365 times, fear not. So when you see a channel like Call for an Uprising, just like, look what they're doing, let's freak out about it. Like it's easy to understand how a person could be in a situation where they feel like that. But it would be better of us to follow what the Bible says. Fear not, fear not, fear not. And that means really like kind of moving away from prepper type idealism. Because the more, let's say you have 5 years of stuff stored up in your cellar. I mean, if you have all that stuff and somebody needs all that stuff, they're just going to be stealing it from you anyway, right? So what you're doing is really you're just buying stored food for 5 times the price. That's what the prepper thing is really about, is you're getting, a month's worth of whatever in a waterproof, seal-proof container, and it's just nonsense. It's 5 times the price. You're buying a sturdy bucket or something like that. And basically, the more of those buckets that you have, the less faith in God that you're showing. And so they use that against you, is your fears. They use perspective against you. Because you don't know when the end of your life is. You don't know where the middle is. You don't know where you're at in that scheme. So, I mean, that's what let me show one of my videos on perspective. Just real quick.
From far off, when we look at the pyramids, it is obvious that there is something at the top. There's a sharp edge. And as we get closer, that edge starts to widen out. Seems more obtuse. Same angle, but we're getting close in on it. By the time you get to the bottom of the pyramids and you look up, the corner is completely obscured. So that's the sun. In case you wonder if it's the sun, this game actually shows it as yellow. It does show that this pyramid, the Greater Pyramid in Giza, is capped with gold, and then the other pyramid is capped with dark color, lead color. So we've got the sun and the moon. The moon is just a little bit shorter. It's almost imperceptible from here. And I'm not sure what it looks like in real life, but this is close enough. Can you trust Google Earth? This is just good. Just wanted to show you this real quick. I couldn't find a real good place to free run down it, but slide down it. But when you do get sliding, it starts looking like a plane. Like, look at that. This is basically what it looks like when you're walking along, except for your sliding. So the pyramids are a graphical display, a model that you can go up to and look at and understand how the sun disappears. This is perspective. This is a model of perspective. And a tool of astronomy before we thought we lived on a ball. This is from a distance. You can see the Greater Pyramid on the right. I'm not sure what the third one is. Also, these are in the game. If you have any idea what those are, they look like batteries to me. Comment below. So you've seen obelisks. This one's even capped with gold, just like the pyramids. What happens with the obelisk? Same thing. You get up close to it, you can't even see the point. Another part of this game is destroying statues of King Ptolemy, which Ptolemy the First started the Great Library of Alexandria, and Ptolemy the Second, according to Assassin's Creed Origins, finished it. Now, the Great Library of Alexandria was a flat earth library, and it becomes obvious why that knowledge was destroyed now. This is Eureka, just a screenshot of outside their headquarters. It's called Global Dynamics, and this is a science worshiping show. Here you can see, though, there's a sphere inside the top of the pyramid, and the top of this pyramid is capped with a yellow color too, just like the sun would be. So this is the LDS temple in Salt Lake City. We've got the eye, and it's got rays coming off it. So in case there's any dispute about the sun and the eye are the same thing, the religions of the world seem to think so. The ancient religions, or I'm not even sure really what this is. I just found it on image search real quick, but it looks old to me. This is your dollar bill, of course. And you can see the rays coming off it. So Egypt knew that the pyramid was the sun. It's a depiction of the sun. The people that made your dollar bills and made this art, they knew. The people that built those temples, they knew. So the eye and the sun are the same. It's a symbol for the same thing. Nobody ever talks about the most basic, the most obvious. This is a model of perception and how perception works. That's all there is to it. This is in a way, it's a map of the flat Earth model and what happens with the sun.
It shows basically what the pyramid is. And then to me, I start seeing it as, okay, that's why they use it as a symbol, because it stands for perspective. So the perspective to see your life laid out from somebody else's point of view. If you were able to see everything that you knew when you were old, that would change the course of your life a lot, right? Well, that's the deal, is it takes until you're old to figure out all these different tricks. We're able to learn faster with videos and hearing other people talk about their experiences and just things that we've all gone through, like the UFO thing and all the globe propaganda, and then in our lives it's never apparent in any sort of way. We just keep going for it, and we keep letting these ideas that somebody somewhere is like so smart that it's all worked out and you can't even figure it out. That's how complex it is. But that's the god of deception. I mean, just think about the very idea of living on something that you can't detect. That's the Lucifer god, you know? And like, that's why the Lucifer is like, it's just all different. Like a sun worshiper does this. Like the Christian will be like, oh, God's up there, you know, because he reads in his Bible, the firmament, and he's above it. He's standing up there. And the Christian's like, oh, yeah, God is up there. And then the sun worshiper is like, yeah, God's up there. But what he's saying is like, you know, that 90-degree kind of nonsense where it's like, he's not, you know, he's pointing at the sun, you know. So it's basically how they do it, so that they can have a mimic for every single Christian action. They have a little code to let you know that they're talking about the other thing. So just the fact of living on a ball, it's so preposterous, but it's tricky in that people will believe it, even though they're like, okay, if you haven't subscribed to Nathan Oakley's Flat Earth Debate channel, you should definitely do that. The reason is now, I don't like to plug people that don't believe in the Bible, and I don't think he does. However, he breaks it down in an academic way, these arguments. And that's important when you're talking to people that were tricked into thinking they live on a spinning ball, because they think it's all about like somebody else somewhere else is smartest about all this. And so you can show them with the numbers, like, you know, the assumption of R. Radius of the Earth has not been proven. You can't prove it. It's not proven. So if you do any sort of formula using R, it's begging the question fallacy, because what you're doing is you're saying this is what it is, and then what I see is, I guess it's this, and that doesn't work because there's no evidence for R. So pointing these things out in an academic way, just radius. Just think about it. It's a sphere, radius of the Earth. So that's super important. And he deep dives on topics that, the rest of us have been talking about for a long time, like the second law of thermodynamics violation of vacuum next to a gas pressure with no container. So no barrier between, it makes no sense. He'll go into all of these different categories in a systematic way because he's got an open channel for ballers to just show up and claim their claims and then support them with evidence. So I want to plug that channel. I want to actually mention to stay away from the channels that are like creating a fear incentive. And these are going to be ones like Call for an Uprising. There's going to be like Richie from Boston. He does it. I would suggest staying away from the 5G is killing everybody because you can't prove that. You don't have any idea. It's these things that lead to more unanswerable questions. They're a real problem with the truth community. Like chemtrails. Yeah, we've seen some things up in the sky that seem strange and stuff, but we don't have labs. Even if we do send it to a lab, who knows if they're going to tell us the truth? Obviously, the labs know what's going on, right? So who owns the labs? I don't own any labs. Do you own any labs? No. Are you a movie star? Is your friend a movie star? Keep noticing the answers to these questions are no. So, stay away from the fear stuff, though. It's a strange thing, because my decision with Call to an Uprising, I'm not saying that he's a bad guy or anything, but what I am saying that is that it's pointless to like be crying about all this stuff. It's almost like helpful to their agenda. They're kind of getting everybody used to it, so that when they see a drag queen leading a bunch of kids on a field trip unsupervised, then it's like they've been getting ready for it. And it's actually better if no one is ready for it, so that when they see it, they're like, what is going on here? And they freak out and they call the police or whatever it is that they do. Confront them, just like, hey, what are you doing? Keep an eye on them. Things like that. Good things. Keeping an eye on them. Figuring out what's going on. So the fear stuff, though, it's crazy. I reported on Plain Truth a while ago. He was claiming 20,000 dead, or 50,000. No, it was 50,000.
So this is a plaintruth.info YouTube channel, claims of 50,000 murdered, which that's a big claim. Matter of genocide, big claim. Copy and share, which, you do that if there's information present, right?
Dude, are you kidding me? And then you go all the way through his video, and is there any evidence for any of this stuff? No, none. How does this help your life to believe that 50,000 people were burnt to ashes on the road, and then he has all these voice interviews, and nobody's got any pictures? Like, everybody's got a camera within 5 feet of them, and there's no pictures of any of this stuff. So, it's tough to expose these channels, though, because it's tough to watch them after you find out that they're just like blowing smoke. You know, like the Alex Jones thing, where he just like throws a fit, and then like, what has anybody learned from Alex Jones? I mean, seriously, where anything that he said has like been beneficial to your life, all these people are really doing is like getting us used to this idea of the dark side, and that's not good. It's not a useful thing. We don't want to be used to the dark side. We don't want to be like desensitized to it when it gets here. What we need is like to still be shocked from what we see. Shocked, like, what? They are having a trans story hour at the library for 3-year-olds? Like, people need to be like, what? Pulling their hair out and like, what? What is going on here? I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be recording this, and I'm going to be paying attention to you, and what are you trying to say to them? And then I'm going to publicize it when I don't like any bit of it, and, you know. But it's like these news stories from the media. We know who the media is. They wouldn't tell you the truth under any circumstances. They haven't told us the truth about anything. None of the wars. Remember how all the news channels are just fine with all these wars? Like, come on. People are like, it couldn't be a huge conspiracy because there'd be too many people. Like, dude, it doesn't even need to be a conspiracy. People will do things that are evil out in plain sight and not see a problem with it. Just like how the abortion thing is going on with the, you know, like full-grown kids now, or full-grown babies anyway. Full-grown fetuses, I guess. What the terminology is. Aborting those is like, that's only possible really because of the Alex Joneses, you know? I mean, people are just like, well then, it's all relative, it's all just, they're taking this totally like, it's all relative type of stance on it, and it's just the craziest thing. I find it strange that, you know, relativity, like Einstein's relativity, actually translated into relativity of morals and relativity of like all of our choices are just like, well, what can you get away with? People are like, oh, that sounds terrible, but it's the law. Like, what? We've been falling for some craziness for just like years. The government started a war on a product in America. The land of the free, home of the brave. A war on a plants. Mostly plants and like lab poisons and lab. They created a war on, basically on plants. You know, like coca plants and marijuana plants and opium poppies plants, and it's so crazy. Like, it's so crazy. The baby boomers are almost like those guys in Dark Matter, where they just like woke up and they didn't know who they were. And they just kind of like started milling about and following each other into whatever. It's horrible to think about, really, because the only reason that happened is basically the World War I, World War II combo. Boom, boom. Followed up with a Vietnam, where it was just like huge, huge loss of. Basically, they've culled us in a way. They took people that were like going to be aggressive by allowing them to be the ones that joined, you know? Like, what was it? The day after Pearl Harbor, something like 500,000 or 1 million men joined. Like the following Monday or something like that. So all the people that were willing to like stand up and be like, hey, no, whatever it is, no tranny story hour, no cops pulling people over just to check and see. You want to check and see? Check my Facebook page. If you want to check and see. Yeah, I think that you don't do a real job. Now that the video has arrived, it's like not very apparent that these people are useful at all. It's not very apparent. Like it really, it's less and less apparent the more you look into any of your rights. It's really that. We live in this weird time. People will go around like, my right to privacy, you can't record me. And that doesn't mean anything. Their words, people's words, all they're saying is like, go away, go away. It's like the barkings of the dogs. It really is. It's like, go away, go away. Or like, you're new, what are you doing? Are you going to freak out if I say something? So like what people actually say and what they actually mean, you know, we've all realized that people are not honest with like, you know, themselves or their emotions or each other or any of it. I mean, this is why we're susceptible to these things, though. We've got the Bible telling us, fear not. And so if we fear, then we can be taken advantage of. That's how they get you paying $5 a pound for cornmeal or something, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, then it expires in 3 years, 5 years, 20 years. I don't know what it is. Either way, you're going to end up wasting just a bunch of food, really, to tell you the truth. And since you spent 5 times as much for it, that 5 times as bad. So, I don't know. I'm not saying that the chemtrails are good. I'm not saying that the vaccines are good. But it's such a half measure. I mean, if we're not telling people around us, like, get your kid out of public school immediately, you know, then we're just wasting our time. If you can't tell that a child could educate themselves better with the use of the internet today than they could in weeks, months at public schools, then you don't really belong to the information age. And they do. Your kids, they do belong to it. So, like, they're going to be able to start learning, like, rapidly and going to be starting to want to make decisions rapidly. And the way things are going are just so crazy. It's like every single city in the United States completely collapses twice a day. Rush hour, morning and night. Some cities, those rush hours are 3 hours long. Like, it's not even a joke. It's a big deal. I mean, we're failing on so many levels. Now, everybody's just figuring out how to get a job where they don't do anything. You know, anyone that is doing something isn't compensated for what they're doing. Basically, it's like this. If you build houses, you're compensated with hot dogs. If you, do an insurance scam, which all insurance is just a scam. It really is. You're paying insurance on someone else's vehicle. It's real convenient. It's real convenient. Who would want to be taking advantage of something like that, right? And then it's required. You realize there's millionaires that are insurance salesmen. It makes no sense whatsoever. how can they take $1 million out of this collective pool of money that's supposed to be going for accidents and stuff? Obviously, that's a scam. That's a ripoff, and like, it's so not even necessary, you know. But it thrives, even though, seriously, you should probably come up with a program in a couple of months to do that on your own, where it's just a website. Pay into the website, and it ends up being that you get rates based off of your driving history and whether you get accidents or not. You know, you could do it now, but they would just figure out a way to game that. You know, these guys are in charge of things. In charge. So when you see these big flat Earth channels, you're going to notice that there's going to be a lack of any real information ever put out. Just kind of like this idea that, oh yeah, it is flat. But people that need to wake up still are not just going to be like, okay, it is flat then. Maybe they will. Who knows? All right, well, I think that's about it. Me, it's like, shave my face. Not doing too good, guys, but... And maybe it's the chemtrails, you know? Maybe it's the, I used to donate plasma all through college. I don't suggest that one. Don't do that one. You know, they've shot me up with all sorts of stuff. They've told me to try all sorts of different pills. So, I'm not doing so good. But, we have to become like a different type of people. We really do. It's honestly like a disgusting situation that we're in. It truly is. If you step out your door, you enter this realm of people that all just want to take advantage of you. Whether all they get for doing it is a check mark on their report or on their, monthly reports or actual dollars. You know, it's to the point where value is just completely meaningless because it's all situational. You know, you can have $10 in some areas. In some areas, you've got to have 30 just to park, you know. In some areas, you have to, like, it's the craziest thing just to exist. Like, these people pretend like they're doing so much for humanity that they want to charge you for just, like, parking. Or, like, the city. Your own city is like, oh, you want to park? Well, that's not included. That's your own town. They're doing that to you. The Constitution is just so trampled. It's ridiculous. It's blunderous. It's preposterous at this point. It's like, what is even going on? I think this is it. They made a perfect document, so when they subverted it, we're not going to go back to, like, perfect or something. I don't know what they did, but things are jacked right now. I know that. I do know that. You can't take your dogs to anywhere without having everybody throw a fit about everything. Yeah, this is like we're everywhere. So it's everywhere. And people are all like, oh, make sure you vote. Make sure you vote. Make sure you vote. It's basically like a survey. Like, what will they put up with now? What will they put up with now? Okay, put that on a graph. When can we start? Whatever, just whatever. They already do everything. They pull people right out of their own houses and put their belongings on the yard. You know, in every city in America, this is going on every day. The same people whose city shuts down twice a day are going around like, well, we should probably, here, I'm in charge here, you do this and you do that. I'm in charge here, you do this and you do that. Like the same people that made the city that just like twice a day. Guys, you people all live in cities, right? Like what happens twice a day? You have to like be sly about it. People go to coffee shops and hang out, eat bagels while they're waiting for rush hour to end, and then they go hop on a bus that goes straight to their location, because it's just this thing that happens where things get too big. You know, it's because of the top-down infrastructure. When we do top-down instead of bottom-up, the decision-making all becomes like rigid. It doesn't adapt. You might notice this if you run like an extensive cross-reference to anything, like a database or any like files. If you're trying to, even simple stuff, if you're trying to keep your the pictures on your phone synced, you know, with your computer without ending up with like a bunch of duplicates and like half resolution weird photos, and then like, you know what I'm talking about? It's tough to just like keep the lines, you know, from crossing. It's a little bit rambly. I was public educated. Went to college. You know, I can use adverbs. Look, I would like to quickly come up with an adverb. You realize that puts me in like the top 1% already? Doesn't take much. It's like bragging is really lost its luster. It used to be fun to brag. Totally lost its luster. Just knowing how dumb and like zombified everybody is like it makes it ridiculous. It makes it so you can't even really enjoy it. It's like, it's really just sad, you know, when you start thinking about how dumb people are. And like, you really, if you travel, I've traveled a lot, all over the United States anyway. I've never left the country, but we all know nothing else matters, right? So, done a lot of traveling, and what I found out is that people are not like as individual as you think. And then I did sales, and that really encourages you to realize that you can manipulate people into stuff because they're basically all the same. You know, there's not really like, there's things that make us, that put us into different societal classes, demographics, things of that nature. But people have like such similar desires, and everybody needs the same thing. Say if you're in the lower class and everybody needs the same thing, it's going to be like money for rent, and then it's going to be like, you know, food, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes. Like, if you're in the medium class, then you don't really have to consider that stuff when you're dealing with someone. So you might not actually be thinking about jacking them for their $20. So that's the middle class. But same people, you know, and like when you understand that these different desires and these different needs can be applied across the different levels, it becomes interesting, because then you start seeing the things that make people different. You start seeing the belief systems that kind of define the person. And people are going for that, to just be defined by, I'm going to have a Subaru, and I'm not going to eat meat, and I'm going to go around acting like part of the solution, but I'm never actually going to have a callus on my hand. Never. And everybody doesn't need calluses, but yeah, everybody pretty much does need calluses. I mean, yeah, basically. Like, if you're not working, what are you doing? Probably nothing. If you've watched these First Amendment audits at all, you know that if you take a camera in anywhere, they start freaking out. And I think viewers get confused about it because the people keep talking about camera. But no, I've been all over the country. It has nothing to do with the camera. I wasn't backing around a camera. You're honestly not allowed. You're not welcome anywhere. Public, private, you're welcome as long as you're spending money. Public, you're welcome as long as you're spending money. Basically, that's the deal. So if you're at a park or something, then basically you're only welcome as much as they say they have a problem with you. Maybe they're just bored and they want to, search someone for drugs or run people out of the park. It'll be like a public area, and then it closes at night. There's no walls on it. So you have to police yourself and, not allowed to go in the park. If there's a bathroom I pay for right there in the park, can't use it, though. There's a water fountain I pay for, if you're in the park, then that means you're not in a house burglarizing it. It's a public space, so you're not welcome at the park. You're not really, especially not if you're, you got a dog or any excuse. That's why I'm saying is it's not the camera. They're just going to be like, oh, well, your truck's over there running. And so that's the excuse this time. And for First Amendment audits, it's, the camera's on them. So that's why it's not allowed this time. No, it's basically just that people have got it in their heads that they should be exerting some sort of control on you. And then the next step is to go around saying that they're scared about you because you've been... That's what they do. They go around, then next thing you know is they're scared because they came up and bothered you. And so then I'm going to call the police. Yeah. Why don't you just mind your business in the first place? And then, people have it so twisted. People watch these TV shows and they actually think that people are just put up with stuff. No. People go around crying at every opportunity. Seriously. The park stuff, if the cop drives by, he'll be like, oh, park. Park hasn't even closed yet. 20 minutes till the park closes. He'll stop and make sure and let you know. Stop and make sure that you're not, smoking a joint. Probably is more like it. Why? Because of the war on plants, right? Gotta have... Where's it going to end, these psychos? They just want to push it further and further and further. They're not planning on stopping. The people are planning on just putting up with it no matter what. It's something else. I do know this, though. These guys have been giving us all these events that make it clear that we can't trust them. Like 9/11 and stuff. So masterful just to even think about how, even in hindsight, wow, just that this even works. basically like 9/11. All it does is it makes people that believe in the news not believe you at all. And it just continues like that for years and decades, and it just keeps going. 9/11 was 2001, like 17 and a half. And people are still like not even willing to admit it or anything. I've got this friend. When I say friend, I mean this kid I went to school with when I was a kid, high school. And he's a drug and alcohol counselor. I'm pretty sure we smoked weed together before. Maybe not. Yeah, we probably did, though. And now he's a drug and alcohol counselor. Joined the war on plants. Why? Because that's who pays bills. That has to do with any, like, morality, where he came around like, oh, yeah, it was definitely, that plant is horrible. Devote my life to stamping up that plant. These people are crazy, man. They don't do that. They're all just bought and paid for. Bunch of whores. You know? It is true. Sucks. Doing sales really, it fucked me up. It really did, guys. I got out there on the streets. I've probably been in your neighborhood. I probably lied to you, personally. 44 states. Been all up and down this place. All over. Seriously. Not too much around like Michigan stuff, but I've been through there. So, well, around there. Never Michigan, actually. But it's crazy, though. You just show up and you start lying to people. It's crazy how little people understand about the world. They just like, hardly anybody calls you a flat-out liar, even though people have been telling the same lie for whatever, sometimes years, sometimes. Like me selling steaks and seafood, things like that. That hustle has been around for so long. Offices go out daily, and they just lie to people like, oh, I paid this much, and then I got it for that much, and then I have these extra cases, and then you want to get a deal? It's so stupid. And people have, like, careers out of this. Just telling lies. Yeah, from an office. They got an office, and they're like, yeah, this just fell off the truck, and now we need to get rid of it. Like, it's all lies. No matter what you get into, it's like all just a big hustle. Like cops. I like using them for an example because they are horrible. They really are. Just really horrible. Even the good cops, I still just kind of hate them. Like, because there aren't really good cops. Okay, think about this. When was the last time you saw some cops, like, arresting somebody? It's either going to be like a domestic, which, according to the Bible, that's none of their business. So, and then what? Shoplifting? So, shoplifting. So somebody will steal, they like stealing like hearing aid batteries and stuff like that with a high value. Then they return it and get like gift cards and stuff. So they'll go in and steal like a $60 battery or a few of them, maybe. And then the cops will show up and it'll be like $300 worth of stuff. Whatever the law is, it's always going to be, under the felony. It's probably like $500 or something like that. They got a bunch of different tricks to get around it, but here's where the scam is. The cops, they're probably making $80,000 a year. and then there's going to be like 2 of them, or 3 sometimes, right? So it ends up being like a lot more money just to have the cops even show up and take these reports and stuff. It's this weird thing where it costs so much for manpower because of all these cheap goods. It's almost like the only expense is labor. So you've got 3 cops. If they show up, if they're making $20 an hour each, then that's $60 for an hour of the cops showing up and taking reports and writing stuff down, and then they drive someone to the jail. Maybe the jail's an hour away. That happens a lot. Maybe they're caught in rush hour traffic. If it's a city, they might be, hours. Hours and hours just to get somebody to the jail. So by that time, what are we looking at? A total cost of like, these guys were going to steal stuff with a ticket price of $350, which that means the store got it for like, a tenth of that, $35, $50. And then, so basically it's worth like $50, say, for the goods. Except for the cops, just in their time, that ends up costing like hundreds of dollars. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And then a lot of times, what do they do with the stolen stuff is keep it for like evidence. So it's basically like they still get, like, the store still loses the stuff, which they write off, and then that just goes to, their taxes. They get a break on their taxes at that point. The people end up paying for these cops that showed up and did nothing, carried somebody away. Basically, we're talking about 5 people that aren't producing anything, not doing anything, and then the business. And the business, they get screwed no matter what anyway, and they still got to pay all the taxes, and it's like the people do, It's all just nonsense. It's all complete nonsense. We don't really need cops to stop people from shoplifting. You don't really need it. Putting people in jail, it's ridiculous. Like, this way of doing society where no one knows anyone is so outdated. It's not going to work. That's sheep. Where the sheep are just like, are you the same sheep that I saw yesterday? They don't even know. Like, this way of life, it's just not working. Everyone's like, security, security, security. And why do they want security? Because they don't know the people in their community. And the people in their community, no matter what happens, they just kind of seem to, some of them get away with it over and over again. Some of them know how to work the system and the courts and everything. And some of them end up going away to prison. Doesn't matter. People are still stealing from Walmart today. Today. And a lot of these people just got out of jail for stealing, because what do you need now that you got court fines and you've got, you probably just lost your house. That's a thing that you've got to, like, stay ahead of. You can't be getting behind on your rent because you get thrown out and you lose all your stuff. So then what? Then you need money even more. Now you need to steal stuff from Walmart even more. It's just this huge circular cycle that the people, they just believe anything that they're told, though. So just keep going for it. They just keep going for it over and over and over again. Let me leave you with this, because it's kind of crazy, but I want to kind of bring it back around to hearing some static. Hopefully that's not coming through. I want to bring it back around to what I was talking about earlier. This is Hacking the Headlines. I'm subscribed. I like her videos.
Facebook is in the news once again. In their new virtual reality headset controllers, they have accidentally, wink wink, put hidden messages into them. And these messages say things like, Big Brother is watching you, and the Masons were here.
Listen to what she says.
And how much more obvious can it get?
She brings up good points. Like, not saying that she's anything bad, but she's pointing out something that's so great. She's like, how much more obvious does it have to get? And that's where you have to stop and think about this. Like, yeah, why do they keep putting these articles out? And like, Call for an Uprising, if you watch his channel, he just exposes like one satanic cartoon or commercial or Super Bowl show or whatever after another, one after another, a store or an article, or it's just one after another. It's ridiculous. Like, why are they doing this? And it's just like she said, can it get any more obvious? It's funny, though, because people are still just like, it's so funny. But she's right. Can it get any more obvious? I mean, if we think about zeitgeist, that's really where the 9/11 information pretty much started. It really is. And that was a really well done, like, professional piece of work. It really was. It had a budget and, like, so what does that mean? Probably like CIA or something, right? I mean, they're hiring people that went to college for their audio. You know, it's not like just YouTubers that are like just trying to figure it out. They're hiring people that are like $100,000 a year to do zeitgeist. So why? How is this possible? It's not like just a regular guy that's like, hey, I saw this, now I want to expose it. It's like this concerted effort with money and what was zeitgeist about? Well, number one is don't believe in Christ. He's the Son. That's what they were saying. Which now we're exposing with the flat earth to all sun worship. And then zeitgeist also exposed 9/11 as being an inside job, which, that's all that matters. That's all that ever mattered, whether it was a legitimate outside threat, because it was used to start a bunch of wars. So that, that's important. That's the important part. Remember, weapons of mass destruction. That's what Saddam Hussein had. And remember there weren't any. So they had proof. Remember, they said up and down, proof. So zeitgeist exposed 9/11, and what I'm saying is that it was a production quality, like, masterpiece. It was like they did a good job on it. It was like entertaining and informative. It was like not just some cobbled together bullshit, is what I'm saying. And now they're just doing all these like satanic articles one after another, and all these like, with the logos. Why do the logos? Oh, we're all going to be pyramid logos. How does that sound, guys? Yeah, they'll never catch on to that, right? But they didn't. People didn't catch on to it. That's what's so ridiculous about it. And now they're just like, trans storytime hour, news publish. We got it next. More terrorists. Publish. They're trying to move us into a different government system. And the way that they've transitioned it is by eroding the one that actually works and is actually good. It's good for personal liberty, which keeps things from being top down, from collapsing, from just the lack of flexibility. Comment below. These are just some thoughts that we need to start moving into the future and away from like whether or not the Earth is flat. It is flat, and even if it wasn't flat, and these guys have been telling us the truth about space, all the rest of it is still a scam anyway. It's all a scam. Everything. When you buy an alarm system, that's a scam. They're hustling you for $60 a month so that you can be what? Connected to their... It's nonsense. It's like a chat line. $50 a month, $50 a month. And then they might or might not be there. You know, and the cops might or might not come. And you might or might not have a cellular unit, so it could be disabled from just clipping the outside line. It's all a scam. When they sold it to you, they told you that they were giving it to you for free too, didn't they? People do that a lot, don't they? Well, it's free, free, free. All you got to do is just this, right? It always ends in free stuff, ends up you giving them a check. Haven't you noticed? This is how all business works. This is how all sales work. This is how government works. This is how the news works. This is like, it's everything. And the winners of that system get all the money. So Bitcoin's not going to help because the winners of doing all that bad stuff, they won at doing all the bad stuff, right? The stealing, the cheating, the lying, all that stuff. Well, now they've got the money to go ahead and buy up the Bitcoin. You know, it's like, it's really crazy because they've almost pushed us into this place where socialism kind of makes sense if you're still trusting the government. I was liberal when I was younger. My mom told me that Democrats were for the poor people and Republicans were for the rich people. And I was like, well, I don't have any money, so I guess liberal sounds good. And then they were like, yeah, we'll make sure and take care of people and stuff. No conservative voice out there to speak of. You know, every once in a while on your lunch hour, you do talk to a conservative. They're working. They're always at work, and they do their job and go to their home and take care of their stuff. So the liberals are usually kind of like in your face and bullshit, and then never have like, they don't marry and settle down and stuff like that. And then they run like the colleges and big time. My college, ISU, big time liberal, just liberal. And you could see it in every class and every, you know, there's this slant to it that was like acting like the government's good. And of course for them, the government is good because it makes it so that they don't have to get any calluses. They still get paid for it. So since they're in on the scam, they appreciate it, and they want you to be liberal because they want the scam to just continue. They think that it's a nice situation sitting around and like thinking about stuff. I wonder what the average rate of consumption would be for whatever, oil in my truck. They can just wonder about whatever and bullshit with their students. It's an easy life. It definitely beats like sweeping up dried potatoes. Definitely does. Or, you know, hauling bricks through the mud. It's definitely way easier than that. Going outside and working, like in the winter. Goodness. You know, that's terrible. That's terrible. So, of course they like it. You're going to find a lot of people. They've managed to skew this so far. So many people's lives and jobs, livelihoods, are dependent upon this money system, just like getting them another check of worthless money. I mean, mine too. Everyone. It's everyone, isn't it? I don't have the equipment. I could cap. It's so obvious, especially in the summertime, that the sun's just rotating right above our heads. So obvious. If I just had some equipment to capture it, but no. Now, people have money for Mardi Gras. People that don't work, they have money for Mardi Gras right now. But that's the deal. Well, that's all I got for you. Like, subscribe, click, comment. Send me your keys to your house.